Alright guys, welcome to another video from XF Motorsports. In this one we're going to be working on the E55. Today Matt is going to be helping me out with this car. He's a mechanical engineer who recently graduated, and he's been helping me out with quite a few things over here. So on this car we're going to be installing these new oil pump gears. These gears we made in a previous video, and basically the point was someone requested that these cars, they make an annoying whining noise every time you start them up, and these gears basically take that noise away. So before, in a previous video, I explained how they work and what they do, but in this one we're actually going to be doing it on an actual car, showing you guys the full process of taking the oil pan out and putting these ones in, and then actually seeing the before and after. Matt is going to be doing most of the work on it, and he's going to explain how to actually take it out.
So we start by removing all the covers from the bottom of the vehicle, and then we'll remove the two-piece oil pan to access the pump, and from there we can change the gears.
Pretty much, yeah. Although it's not as simple as that. It's a bit of a painful job. So yeah, let's actually get into it. Let's show you guys everything involved in getting all this work done. So quickly walking you guys through the process, we're going to start off by bracing the engine from the top. There's two bolts over here where you can, two points where you can put bolts over here where you can actually support the engine from the top, because we're going to be removing the entire subframe, so there's not going to be anything holding the engine from the bottom. So yeah, the top needs to be supported because of that. And then after that we're going to get to lifting the car up, removing all the covers and removing a whole bunch of stuff from underneath. So now that we have the covers off from underneath the car, let me show you guys what we have to do. So we have to remove these upper and lower oil pan, of course, to get to the oil pump. But the problem with that is that there's a whole massive subframe underneath it, because of which you can't remove it. You can't even turn a bolt on it. So to lower the subframe first, what we usually do is we just unplug all the stuff you have to unplug, all the O2 sensor plugs over here. The steering shaft that is over there, there's a 13mm bolt that you can get from there, and then the whole thing comes off. And after that there's another power steering line. There's a bolt that holds a thing, I think it's that one over there, that you need to disconnect, and otherwise you'll be pulling on the power steering line. And then for the suspension, this bolt, and then also the upper bolt for the upper control arm. And the way we did that last time was that we just put two ladders over here to support the tires so they don't fall all the way down when we undo that, and then just a transmission jack on the subframe itself, and then the subframe can drop down low enough to actually remove the upper and lower oil pan. So it's a little bit of work. And also, of course, I forgot to mention the engine mount bolts. We are also replacing the engine mounts on this car actually, so that's going to be a good time to actually replace the engine mounts when the whole subframe is down. So yeah, let's get to all these next steps. So after a bit of work, now we have lowered the subframe, and we've already gotten the upper oil pan out. So, well, basically walking guys through everything that we did. We disconnected the steering shaft from there, removed a few lines, these ones going to the dampers, also removed the this line going to the power steering rack, and this line that usually connects on the subframe over here. And by removing all that, you can lower the subframe down enough so that you can get all the oil pans and stuff off. So yeah, here's a look after the lower oil pan is off. Now you can see the oil pump over there, and now there's a whole bunch of more stuff to remove before we can also take the upper oil pan off. So there's these little screws going all the way around the upper oil pan. First we need to take this baffle plate off, and then after that, once this is off, then we'll be able to access all the bolts. And once the upper oil pan is also off, then there's 3 more bolts holding the oil pump itself in place, and then that's gonna let us take the oil pump off. Here's a look at the oil pump after it's all taken apart, and this is so far the cleanest oil pump I think I've taken apart. Not a patch of like anything on the strainer, no access gasket maker, no normal rubber things from the timing chain sprocket and stuff that break off on this engine, which literally every engine has, but not this one. This one is entirely clean. Nothing at all was on the strainer. The o-ring that usually you find this really hard and cracked up on, well, most of these engines that I've opened, it's still not round, but it's like it's soft. This is pretty good to see for any E55 really, so that's pretty amazing. So yeah, definitely a really clean engine actually. But next what we need to do is we need to change these gears. These are the newer style of gears that I made that replace these normal factory gears. Lobes, well, not gears really. And well, this one is a bit of a newer edition of those ones too, because the previous ones that I made, they were a hassle to put on. They were really tight press fit. So now with these ones I've changed them a little bit. Usually I mark them with an F. The F marks which side of these gears go towards the front of the engine, and basically you can tell that just by putting them on, because one side will slip right on halfway, and then the other side, if you try to put it on, it's tighter. So basically it's a tapered bore in here. One side is slightly bigger, the other side is smaller, and the side that goes in easier, you just put it in this way and then you press fit it on the rest of the way. And because of the tapered shape, this newer design is actually easier to put on than the older one, so it's not as much of a hassle anymore. So yeah, I just need to press fit them on. The only tricky part about this step is that the alignment of the gears has to be exact, because these ones are already press fit, these ones are also press fit, so they need to be angled perfectly properly so that they're not touching each other when the oil pump spins. I'll show you that in a second, but yeah, once you do that, then everything is good to go back in the car. Here's a look at everything after the lobes are installed, and I've also given everything a cleaning so that it's ready to be put back together. And one thing to check for at this point is just make sure that everything is spinning super freely. Nothing should be binding or anything. And yeah, basically the way these lobes are supposed to work is that they're supposed to get really close to each other, but they never should be touching each other. Even if you force them to touch, they shouldn't touch each other. There always should be a gap between them. And yeah, basically after this, I'm just going to put all the stages of the pump together, torque everything to spec, and then again spin it and make sure that nothing is binding, everything is spinning freely. And if that's the case, then it's just going to be a matter of putting everything back in the car. So now that the pump is all put back together, there's a few parts that I need to replace at this point. This is the pressure relief that goes like right here on the outlet of the pump. Basically what it does is when you turn your engine off, it doesn't let all the oil from the oil filter housing and oil galleries flow back into the oil pan, and it basically keeps it there. It's a really common thing that fails on these engines. On this one it was actually fine, but on most cars that I've seen it, these valves stop sealing, and then all the oil goes back into your engine, and when you then start it up after a while, the engine for the first few seconds runs without oil pressure, and then oil pressure builds up. So yeah, while you have everything apart, definitely replace this one. This is the oil level sensor o-ring, also something that leaks over time, so better to replace it when everything is out. This one is the oil dipstick o-ring. It was actually leaking on this car as well, but previously I just put some gasket maker on it since it's difficult to replace. But now, since everything is apart, I'm just going to replace the whole thing. And of course this one is the seal that seals the oil pickup tube that goes over here. Again, it's something that on most cars I've seen, they come out really hard, and they go hard and brittle. here's a look at everything after, well, the oil pans are back in place, and at this point I'm just going to leave everything overnight so that the gasket maker cures, and tomorrow morning I'm going to fill in oil in it just to make sure that there's no leaks before I put the subframe back on, of course, because if there's any leaks it's easier to remove everything now and fix it rather than putting the subframe back on, and that then it would be a hassle of a job fixing everything. I've also taken the time to touch up all the rust on the subframe just because, well, this was probably the best time to do it. It is a clean car mostly, but of course being a Canadian car nothing really escapes the rust. So yeah, other than that, tomorrow we also have to do a few more things on it. We have to change the engine mounts, the control arms, the upper control arm ball joint, and basically all the stuff that usually fails on the E55s. Not that there's anything wrong with this specific one, but the person just wants to replace them as preventative maintenance before something happens to it. He just wants to replace everything. So yeah, a little bit of work left, but let's work on it as quickly as possible so we can actually start this engine, because I'm really excited to see what noise difference these gears will actually make and how the engine will run with them. Once all the parts were changed on the car, it was finally time to put it back down and we'll start it for the first time on these new oil pump gears. So that's how the E55 sounds like with the new oil pump gears installed, and it is really quiet actually. Now you can actually, well, now you hear the things you didn't hear before, all the injector clicking noises, pulleys, supercharger whine. All the other E55 noises are still there, it's just that that whining noise that the oil pump gears used to make is gone completely, so it almost sounds like a much smoother engine now. When you rev it and stuff, it's like, it's clean, it's just engine noise now. So yeah, that's it's a pretty big difference. I'm pretty surprised. It almost seems like I've never heard an E55 like this before, because every single E55, almost every single E55 makes that whining noise. Some are louder than others, but pretty much all of them have it. So this is really cool to see an E55 that doesn't have that noise at all. Let's actually, we'll do the alignment on it, then actually take it for a test drive, make sure that all these new parts installed work okay and the car drives well. And that's going to be it for the car. But yeah, pretty big difference. I'm pretty happy with how this sounds and everything. This is pretty cool. Okay, so a bit of trouble for the E55. I was just taking it for a test drive, and well, even before I got too far, one of the power steering lines started leaking, and I brought it immediately back because well, you can see that whole trail of fluid it left over there. I think, well, by the looks of it, I don't think the power steering line was put back properly. Matt did that part. I didn't do that part, but I still should have checked. But now let's lift the car up, see what the problem is over there, and yeah, see what went on over here. So this was the thing that failed underneath the car. This is the power steering line, and it's touching right up against the AC compressor. That's a disaster literally right here. Matt was the one putting this line on, but it's stupid enough of me too to trust him with this and like not check this myself. But I guess I'll talk to Matt before I complain too much in this video. He's not here right now, but this is really bad. So update on the E55 after 3 days and a whole lot of trouble. So yeah, this is what we ended up doing. Now the power steering line is fixed and everything is good on it. I wanted to replace the whole power steering line, just get a new one from the dealers and put it on, but problem was it would have taken 12 days for that one to come in, and we didn't have that much time because I had to give the person my R class, and I also needed the R class to tow this car to the dyno. So that of course didn't end up happening. I had to get this done as quickly as possible. So what I did was I went to a hydraulic line shop. I told them to cut the whole line from here and put a whole new line on, but they weren't able to do that because they didn't have the original fitting that Mercedes was using over here. So what they ended up doing was they just cut the line from here and they press fit a new hydraulic line on from here to up to the top. So basically the whole damaged section is replaced, and it's going to be equally as good. I've already put fluid in it. I've cleaned up all the fluid that's spilled from the old belt that got cut, because I had to get it off the serpentine belt and all the other places because it would have caused trouble later on. And yeah, after that everything seems to be holding up. I've put fluid in it, I've given it full pressure, and there's no leaks underneath, so it's all looking pretty good. Let's put the covers back on and, well, now finally take the car for a test drive and see how everything does. Okay, so test driving the E55, and I just want to show you guys the startup from inside the car because, well, listen to this. It is so quiet now. It's like different than any other E55. So it's well, since I work on a lot of these cars, it's pretty cool to see that this one doesn't make any noise at all. It's pretty cool. One good thing about this car I can say is that every time it comes in, it seems to get newer rather than getting older. So like even the first time when it came in, it was a fairly well kept car. It was driving pretty nice, but now driving it, it's like the smoothest, quietest E55 I've ever driven. It's really clean. And yeah, let me just push it a little bit to show you guys, but I don't want to push it too much because it's been well kept through its entire life. I don't think anyone's been driving it too hard. You guys saw the engine from inside, how clean it was. So that's probably, I think, at this mileage at 139,000, which is well, I've seen lower mileage E55s before, but I don't think I've ever seen a cleaner engine and cleaner, like, everything inside the engine than what's inside this car. So this is really good. It's been kept really well, and after changing all this, of course, it seems even better. So yeah, that's all really good. Let's take it back to the shop, have a quick look over everything once more, make sure everything is holding up, and that's gonna be it for the car then. So that's going to be everything for the E55. This car is all back together now, driving all proper, so that's really good. There's only one problem on the car actually that I didn't get to figure. The person wanted me to look into the push to start button on the shifter. When you press it, the car doesn't do anything at all. Usually, well, it's supposed to start when you push this button, but on this car it doesn't work. I've seen the same problem on other E55s as well. I took the shifter apart, I looked at the button itself. It is working, and even the contacts on the shifter are fine, so I'm not sure what the problem is there. If anyone else has looked into it and knows what the solution is, definitely let me know in the comment section below, and that's something that we can probably work on the next time the car is in. And well, other than that, if you guys want to get these oil pump gears or any of our other E55 parts, I will link the website in the description below. We were a little too stacked on parts orders over the last few months. That's why it was taking a while to deliver parts and make parts, and also, well, all the stuff that we needed for the parts was taking a while to come in. But hopefully, yeah, now there's another person working on the CNC machine, Sheng. I'm not sure if you've seen him on the channel yet, but I'll probably make a video with him in the future. Also showing you guys progress on some other projects. This was the SEC V12, the Mercedes SEC. We were putting a massive V12 bi-turbo engine into, but this car, yeah, there's not too much left to finish up. There's just the turbos that I need to mount, finish up on all the wiring, and then this engine is already going to be ready to get fired up. And a small change with this project, actually. Before we were putting in an automatic transmission, but later the person changed his mind. He wanted to go with a manual transmission, the same one we put in an E55, the CD09 manual transmission, same one I'm also running in my car actually. So that's going to be really cool. That just makes this project, well, 10 times more cooler than it already was. So yeah, we just got to finish up on the engine quickly, bolt the transmission up, and then we'll get this car running soon enough. Other than that, progress on my own car was also a little, well, slow through the summer. Progress on every big project has been slow through the summer, just because I guess we got a little too busy for our own good. There were a lot of cars coming in, a lot of parts orders that we had to work on, and yeah, all this stuff really slowed us down. But still need to take this car back to the dyno and see how much power it makes with all the new changes. So I'm still pretty excited about it. Let's see how much work we can get done on it before the summer ends, and see what lap times it gives. And other than that, there's also quite a few other big projects that are coming up that we need to work on over the winter. Also the F1 project, which is a really big one. So yeah, through the summer, this summer was unfortunately a little too busy to get anything done on these bigger projects, but yeah, through the winter we're planning to knock most of these projects out, so you guys are going to be seeing a lot of videos coming up. If you guys want to stay tuned, make sure to hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you in the next one.